G'day, I'm Will Anderson. Welcome to Gruen. We'll get to the panel in a moment, but first, why are ads butchering all our favourite songs? NRMA Insurance has murdered the Hunters and Collectors classic, Throw Your Arms Around Me. It starts with this unidentified woman in the rain.
I will come for you at night time.
Bit murdery. Then there's this bit.
I will kiss you in 4 places.
Okay, definitely creepy. Then there's this.
I will squeeze the life right from you.
Incredibly murdery. Forget NRMA, I need the RSPCA. The only way to be weirder if there was some angelic child whispering demonically at the end. Okay, now I need life insurance. Heineken, not satisfied with David Bowie being dead, decided to also bury his song Heroes with this bad karaoke version.
No thanks. I'm still driving.
We'll drive away. We can be heroes.
If refusing to drink a Heineken makes you a hero, I'm Batman. But the most slaughtered song of all is Higher Love, originally by Steve Winwood. Now a cover version seems to be in every single ad. There's this campaign from Hyundai.
Think about it. There must be a higher love down in the heart, hidden in the stars.
Her response was, "New phone, who dis?" She's an astronaut, mate. Take the hint. She needs space. Pure Blonde is also searching.
Think about it. There must be a higher love.
When an army of Aryan people charges through the streets in search of purity, it's probably not for higher love. Higher love can sell anything. Furniture?
Thing about it. There must be higher love.
Tomato sauce?
Hey, Dad, pass the sauce.
Sauce.
There must be higher love.
Baby formula?
Think about it.
Your baby's tummy. You know it's important for their contentment.
American chocolate?
Think about it. There must be higher love.
Norwegian chocolate? English football? Even the entire country of Ireland. These days, watching TV feels like this. Bring me a higher love, bring me another song. Time to welcome our panel, Todd Sampson, and from PwC, Russell Howcroft. Joining them from Leo Burnett, Karen Ferry, and from Campaign Edge, Dee Madigan. Welcome. Between the Royal Commission and the Royal E-Mission, it's been a big week for powerful old brands. But tonight, we'll stick to the big banks and the gap between what they're doing and how they're selling. Let's kick off with a brand new Westpac ad and listen out for the cover version.
I wish I could swim just like a dolphin, like dolphins can swim. I'll be king, and you
They went with heroes. I would have gone with being caught stealing. Dee, I don't get it. Why is Westpac taking credit for building the Sydney Harbour Bridge?
Well, they're not. What they're trying to do is not link to the bridge, but link to Brand Australia. And Brand Australia, one of the key attributes is looking after your mates. So it's like Australians look after their mates. Westpac is Australian, therefore Westpac look after their mates. It's an advertising non sequitur that's, of course, complete bullshit because Westpac has nothing to do with the bridge and Westpac is not the nice kid on the school bus. It was probably the school bully who took your lunch money.
All this needed was a voiceover at the end in order to explain why they've gone down this route. This is a beautiful commercial for one. It's beautifully made. It's Westpac's 200th birthday. So on the end frame, they've got a slide that's just got 200. So that's the reason why they made the commercial. They've said, you know what, we've been around for 200 years. During the course of those 200 years, we've provided the finance for a lot of amazing things that have occurred in the country. It just needed a voiceover and an explanation. This is a celebration of 200 years of banking in Australia.
I think the clever thing about it is how little branding they actually had. So they delayed. Normally in an ad, you have to put the branding up and identify the product or the company as quickly as possible and then continue to do that. In this, they choose not to do that. And part of that is they get you to like the ad before you realise you hate it.
Yeah, well, that's good advertising.
I don't think you do like the ad, though. I think it skips from scene to scene so quickly that you actually don't even get emotionally involved in it. I don't think it's a good ad.
Oh.
Russell's never seen an ad that's not a good ad.
No. It's just... I don't think it's accurate to say it's not a good ad. As a piece of film, it is beautifully, beautifully made. The choice of song is fine. The reason why they're doing it is fine. They're celebrating 200 years. All I'm saying is they could have helped the consumer understand why they've made that commercial. And yes, of course, you're not going to have the branding up front because we all know what happens if you put the branding up front.
Yeah,
the remote control gets used.
It's the equivalent of doing this and then running the ad.
Oh, well.
It's interesting with the song, Will, the covers. And this was covered by a gang of youths. So it's not a terrible cover, but the reason songs are butchered in advertising is because butchered songs are cheaper than the originals by a lot. So if you bought this song from David Bowie, that would probably cost you $800,000, roughly. You could do that at a quarter of that price, covered. So he will allow you to do it. His estate will allow you to do it. Shame on them. And then they'll allow you to do it, and then you get to change it. And you can even change the words as well if the artist or the estate allows you.
Well, yeah, the estates of these artists, they love the advertising business.
I'm sure they do.
Right.
The ad echoes some of the shocking revelations we heard at the Royal Commission. People drowning from debt. And pain and tears from all that bad financial advice. Apparently, this blockbuster ad costs over $1 million to make. Todd, is splashing their cash a good look right now?
If they've got it under $1 million, they've done well. It's not that expensive for advertising. And we at one stage, we tried to use a Jay-Z song in an ad, and it was $2 million for the song, let alone the ad being made. So, however, I think putting that on now is questionable in this current environment. But doing no advertising is also silly because advertising is the one medium you can control. You can completely control the narrative. And when you're in a crisis mode, as they're in right now, you want to have that medium. But you tend to put a crisis filter over it. So does it inflame the situation? Does it make people want to attack you? And I don't think this ad does that. I think it's sort of, it slides by and it's likable enough.
I think it's interesting what you were saying about crisis management because we look at the bigger picture of where Australia's at. All our pillars of what we see as traditional Australian society, so the churches and the banks and now cricket are all under question. So people are looking for something that's really stable, in this case, Aussie mateship. So sticking to something that makes traditional people feel very comfortable with the amount of change we're going through as a society.
I think it makes people look at the bank and think, stop taking credit for stuff you didn't do.
This moment is the only part of the ad with Westpac branding. I get the feeling some Westpac executives would have liked to be rescued during the commission too. That is our entire budget done for the season. That helicopter appears in so many ads, it gets more roles than the Hemsworths. Karen, can the helicopter save Westpac this time?
Well, I think it's interesting because in an industry seemingly devoid of ethics, Westpac reminding Australians about their helicopter rescue service is pretty much saying, we're the ones with heart, we're the bank that saves people. What they're trying to say is, what they're trying to do is just get people to switch, because every Australian needs to be with a bank. So all they're trying to do is say, hey, we're the best of a shitty bunch, come with us.
Yeah. I mean, I think...
You know, they should have said that in a voiceover again.
I think the helicopter helps. So when companies and brands are in crisis, sometimes what they do is they like to put a shield up, and often that shield is ordinary people or farmers or their staff in advertising, because it's hard to hate them because they're mums or they're farmers, so you don't want to hate them. In this case, their shield from the public is that helicopter, and that helicopter, I mean, we make fun of it and it pops up every once in a while, but, you know, 2,000 rescues a year. It has value, but it's definitely being used as a soft touch point from a brand perspective.
That's what they should have done the whole add-on, I reckon, is you think 2,000 rescues, that must have been amazing footage. Then you might look at the bank and think, well, they're bastards, but at least they're doing all this good work. And I don't think this ad does that.
Except you're not telling a story of the last 200 years.
But I don't think customers care about that, but
that's the purpose of the commercial. The purpose of the commercial is long-term brand effect.
The purpose of the commercial is to stop people hating them over the Royal Commission. And I think showing 2,000 rescues over a year would have done a better job.
The helicopter is something that Westpac's had for a long period of time, and they've used that over a long period of time as part of that, you know, investment in social licence. They're very fortunate. They're very fortunate that they've got that vehicle.
NAB has had a few spots running during the Royal Commission. There's this collaboration with our soccer team. That's one way to look better. Align yourself with FIFA, the most corrupt organisation in the world. There's also this.
A bike with pedals. Candy? I have a whole beach to myself. The cameraman's job.
It's funny how we all start off knowing what we want.
What do I really want?
But at some point it becomes less obvious.
Ooh, what do I want?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I don't know how to answer that, to be honest.
I'm not too sure yet.
Oh my goodness.
At NAB, we've realised that when you talk to yourself about what you really want, that's when we can really help.
NAB, more than money.
What do I want? Oh, thanks for asking. Better banks. That ad seems like NAB is saying, it's not our fault for screwing you over, it's your fault for not knowing what you want. Russell, why go with that message?
I actually really like this commercial.
Was it the voiceover at the end that told you?
Because I like it because it's encouraging a adult-to-adult conversation. And I think in Australia we're not great at that. I think a lot of our communication is parent to child. So it'll be, you know, politician to society, or indeed in advertising, an institution to a consumer. And what I hope comes of the Royal Commission is a more adult-to-adult conversation that does occur between potential customers and banks. And I think that's what this ad is actually encouraging.
There's a 3-minute online version of that ad, which includes this scene.
I would love it if somebody with a facial difference was extra number 5 in a beach scene. That would be great. And if I could be a little bit cheeky, I actually also want to be in a TV commercial.
It's a lovely moment, but it's only in the longer version. Karen, what's the point of diversity if diversity doesn't make the cut?
It's unfortunate that for people of diversity, whether it is physical, gender, sexual, cultural or neurological, is they're often the first to be cut in edits or in casting. And why we have something for of diversity in casting is because we want to say that everyone is treated exactly the same and equal. But when you have someone with a facial difference and also another girl with a disability in the long form cut out of the TV, it's pretty much saying they're not as equal as the people who got through on the TV. They're in a second class. Yeah. So it just comes off as being really token. It's like hiding the black guy at the back of the Banana Republic catalogue.
One of the most mind-blowing revelations during the commission was that CommBank charged dead people for financial advice. A week before we heard about that, CommBank killed off this ad.
So, Gordon, how can I help you?
I'd like to talk about depositing in my savings account.
First, can I interest you in
No, I don't need a home loan, personal loan, credit card or...
a coffee?
Ah, thank you.
At CommBank, our tellers are rewarded for service, not sales, putting our customers before us. That's a welcome change.
Right, let's talk about that savings account. Oh, are you okay for... Sugar?
Sugar would be good.
I'd check your bank statement, Gordon. I bet they charged you for that sugar, whether you used it or not. That ad is all about the customer, and sure, the word us is in customer. Yay. Yes, great. You're very clever. But so is the word scum. Dee, can CommBank ever make an ad about customer service again?
Well, this actually wasn't an ad about customer service, but having said that, they shouldn't be running, I don't think, these sort of ads in the Royal Commission, because every time you see the ad, you immediately think about the Royal Commission. But this ad was actually about them admitting they've made some mistakes, but minimising them. So it's like, oh, we're sorry we tried to upsell you on some products, not we're sorry we sold dead people shit. And that is their strategy here. But I think what it is the banks feel this desire to defend themselves, and sometimes, you know, you've got the right to remain silent, and I reckon they should for a while.
Yeah, well, I think they will. They will go back to customer service messages. I think we have like a Stockholm Syndrome relationship with banks. They've held us ransom and we've learned to like it. You know, we've always, if you think of the public, the Australian public and how much they don't like banks, we've always felt or intuitively knew that this stuff was happening. Right? This is not new news, this is just current news that's come out with the Royal Commission. But we do nothing about it. We don't change banks, we learn to live with it.
If you were doing the next, campaign for any of the banks, you would absolutely do it around customer service. And you would have people behind the counter having a transaction with a customer. And the reason why you would do that is that you would be wanting to be very clear to your staff on how you want them to behave in reality. I like to think about Bunnings Warehouse. When you look at Bunnings Warehouse, I think about it all the time, of course, yeah. When you see Bunnings Warehouse advertising, you're actually seeing the experience that you literally have. So the ad, in a way, is a training video for the staff. And yeah, I'd be going right back to basics, and it would be all around the customer, and it would be messages that we're here for you as long as you deliver. But if you're putting that on the television set, that's actually making a big promise. So we are trying to do this for you, and you're training the staff with that message.
Or you could do the complete opposite and stop doing customer service at all. Say, we will be complete bastards, but we will make you money. And I reckon that there is a cohort that would absolutely work for, because there's a believability there, and people go, well, OK, you've admitted you're going to be a bastard, you're going to make me money, I'll go.
It's interesting, Dee, the customer satisfaction rates in banks have gone up since people stopped going in.
Not surprising at all.
Another big bank talking customers is ANZ. Here's some of its latest ad.
Can you tell the chef? You ask the chef.
Could I have soy, chocolate, almond milk, yak milk? Done.
From orders through to payments, with ANZ Play Pay and the right app, you'll get on top of your business.
Can you remove the sour from the sourdough?
Typical bank, all they care about is the dough. I apologise for nothing. And if ANZ are sick of annoying questions, they must love the Royal Commission. Russell, what's the message here? The customer is always annoying?
No, the customer is an individual, and we've got the technology that enables that individual to go about their business and go about their banking in the way that they want to. I think this is a good piece of advertising.
Oh, God! Russell!
It's advertising their technology.
This is a classic example of message intention and message takeout. So the intention is to say that we understand you and we understand your world. But the only thing the majority of people remember from that ad are knobs go to this bank. And that's what research is often used for. So research is often used to test these ads to say, what is the actual takeout? Because what you intend, what you say is not necessarily what gets translated. But I can tell you, for the majority of people that see that, they're going to remember the sour and the sourdough. They're going to remember one of those things, and they're going to link that to that brand. I think they weighed way too much on the knob factor and not enough on the information.
On the tech factor.
But isn't this ad, though, appealing to small business owners to say, hey, we understand how annoying your customers are. You know, we're banks, we're really annoying as well. But that's what it is. It's about creating almost a common enemy and getting the small business owners to go, yeah, they understand us, and gee, our customers are annoying.
They're promoting the fact that they now have technology which helps businesses
with annoying customers?
Yeah, no. That's not. No, it's saying you are an individual with your own individual aspirations in your business. We now have technology which helps you transact your business in the way that you wish.
What was the technology?
The platform that they've got, that groovy thing.
What was it?
Oh, I don't know what it was.
Yeah, exactly.
About the impression.
Yeah. In Russell's defence, we cut the ad off before the end where there was a voiceover that explained throughout the Commission, ANZ has been refunding millions of dollars in fees, and there are stories on social media of customers getting back forgotten cash from ANZ ATMs. Todd, is this better PR than any ad?
The mission now for the banks, with the Commission and all that's going on, is to rebuild trust again. And the best way to rebuild trust is through action, not through saying, although you can do action and then say that you've done it. Personally, I think the Royal Commission is the best thing to happen to the Australian bank brands. Because what the Royal Commission is going to do is it's going to reset the trust levels publicly. And this will allow the banks to build, because the banks have been wasting millions of dollars trying to rebuild that trust. Now the Royal Commission will reset the levels. All the banks need to do is accept, don't fight back, accept, we're bad, all of us, and then the trust levels will be set. I think the Royal Commission is one of the best things, best advertising tool the banks could have right now.
But I think what's really interesting is we talk about trust, but it's the actions that show it. And we've got so low expectations of bank that getting back our own money that we owed makes us feel good. But it's these small incremental behaviours which they know is that it has a really big payoff. It's the same as when you go to a hotel and they give you a free bottle of wine. It leaves you with a really good effect that you're like, you know what, I'm going to book another room for $300. It costs them a $12 investment. Their small amount of returning your like $200 ATM fee, they know that you're going to get 30 years on a home loan with them. So the amount of investment they get off the back of just keeping you happy is much bigger.
And thanks to social media, of course.
Yeah.
The person who gets the reward usually tells not just their close family, but 10,000 of their closest friends, and no doubt that the bank retweets all those as well, so the payoff is huge.
When I go to a hotel and they give me a free bottle of wine, what I do is then spend $250 more on wine and sleep in the foyer. One of the worst casualties of the Commission is financial services company AMP. Stock price has plummeted, it's down a chairwoman and a CEO, and there may be criminal charges for lying to regulators. AMP is not only the worst offender, they also make the most boring ads. So, we're not even going to show it. Here's the last 5 seconds.
So apply today for your share of $1 million in grants at ampstomorrowfund.com.au.
I think some former AMP executives might need to apply for that Tomorrow Fund. If there's one organisation that can make us love banks, surely it's the Australian Banking Association, which until last month was called the Australian Bankers Association. Wonder why they changed it. Well, just before the Royal Commission, it released this spot.
Hi, I'm Gracie, and I've worked for an Australian bank for 33 years. A lot of people think banks just keep their profits, but nearly 80% of Australian bank profits go to shareholders. 80%.
The banks don't keep it.
It goes to investors and millions of people who have bank shares through their super funds.
It goes to millions of everyday Australians.
Australian bank profits belong to Australians.
Australian banks' profits belong to Australians.
Australian banks belong to you.
Hang on, Australian banks belong to me? In that case, I'd like to make a large withdrawal from my vault, please. Australia's Big Four are among the most profitable banks in the world. Dee, is this argument that we're all winners persuasive?
This is, I think, one of the cleverer ads because it's so ordinary. Like, everything about it. The people are kind of ordinary, the settings are ordinary, so it doesn't look like the banks are splashing a lot of money. That's really important. And the messaging's very clever because if the outtake from it is, 80% of bank profits go to Australian shareholders, that's the outtake. Of course, it's not true. They've forgotten to mention that 20% of those are overseas people and that the profits, of course, are after the massive payouts and bonuses to everyone. But this as an ad is, I think, very clever.
Yeah, this is a really interesting way of reframing the problem. So when you reframe something, you try to turn it around so it seems like it's not in their interest, it's in your interest. So in this case, they're saying, well, you own the banks. So It's your problem. Yeah. And that's pretty clever, and it's a really loose use of language there, because the thing that they repeat over and over again is they say 80%, but they keep repeating, they do it 6 times, the power of repetition in an ad, that Australians own it, Australians own it. It's just simply not true. Yeah. But that's what you take out of it.
The image of the Big Four could not be more tarnished by the Royal Commission. Russell, will customers abandon the banks and start, shoving their money under their mattress?
It will depend on what alternatives are promoted. So it's rare that people change their banks. They'll change on, when their life changes, maybe with a marriage or when they buy a house, that could occur, but just normal course of business, it's quite rare. But there's clearly an opportunity for other institutions, credit unions, a massive opportunity. If they want to get on the front foot, they're going to have to spend a lot of money on their marketing and on their platform and on their advertising. If they really want to make a dent, now's a pretty good time for them. Banking inertia is incredibly strong. If hating the banks was a reason to change, we all would have changed.
Yeah, I hate my bank.
It's just not going to happen. I mean, it's in Australia because it's an oligopoly. In America, they're now saying the millennials in 10 years will not have banks. They'll be financing through Facebook, they'll be financing through Amazon, they will not need banks to function. They'll be buying mortgages through these big platforms. But in Australia, because it's owned by 4 big, strong institutions, which in a time when the market's going down, we love them. They're absolutely fantastic. They keep our economy afloat. But with that comes some take.
If there's one ad on air that really paints a picture of the attitude of the banks, it's one that shows someone literally stealing cash.
What?
I'm gonna pop some tags. $20 in my pocket. I'm hunting, looking for a come up.
What about this one?
Whoa.
This is awesome.
That is not awesome. And if she's buying a house and a car, she's stealing a lot more than $20. She's a criminal mastermind. At this rate, when she grows up, she'll run her own bank. And now the pitch, where ad agencies go head-to-head over impossible briefs. America has 50 states. Tonight, we've asked our agencies to convince us it's about time Australia became the 51st. Can they do it? Please welcome from Red Jelly in Tasmania, Dan Noonan, and from Brain Cells in WA, Jeff Chantalou. Dan, where did you go on your diplomatic mission?
Well, we started out thinking about national identity, about our core values and what our role was in a global society. And then, in the end, we went for a more direct motivator.
Let's have a look.
Running low? Don't pay $1.49 per unleaded petrol, pay just 79 cents a litre.
What? Where?
A dozen free-range eggs? Don't pay $5.50, just $1.45.
Whereabouts?
Carton of Heineken? Don't pay $55, just $24.99.
Oh, come on.
iPhone X? Don't pay $15.99, just $9.99.
I can't compete with that.
The GT Mustang? Don't pay $65,000, just $35,000.
You have got to be kidding me.
No, we're not. If you can't beat them, join them. Let's make Australia the 51st state of America. Spoken by A Bloke for America Down Under, Canberra.
Great job. All right, Jeff, how did you travel?
We found it pretty difficult to construct a rational argument for this, so we heaped on a trail of emotion and reinforced it with some cultural pride.
Oh, let's have a look.
I've lost my oldest son.
This is our solution, teaching active shooter drills in elementary.
Members of my church.
Thoughts and prayers couldn't stop Sandy Hook, Las Vegas, Florida.
10 people shot and killed.
Australia, we're dying over here.
Please.
Please.
Please become the 51st state and show us how gun control is done.
Mates don't let mates down.
The US needs us, so let's become the 51st state.
Russell, look at that. Two completely different approaches, but both very effective. Which one did you prefer?
I thought they were both fantastic. And I love the thinking around, you know, like they need us. However, just the idea that I can get a Mustang for like $35,000. I'm going number one. Good on you, Dan.
Karen?
I think most people are inherently selfish and the cost of living in Australia is ridiculous, so I'm going to go with number one as well.
Dee?
Yeah, I loved number two, but self-interest tops altruism every single time, so I'm going to go number one.
Todd, what about you?
Have I died and gone to America? Number two.
Unfortunately, still it's a victory. There you go, number one. You still won, though. Todd's vote is only worth one. He thinks it's worth more than that, but you're both fantastic. Congratulations. It's rare that a product advertises what's not inside it. Your average can of Coca-Cola is completely bee-free, mouse-free, and if you're lucky, piss-free. But their latest product focuses on something else that's missing. The sugar.
The great taste of Coca-Cola now comes with no sugar. Some people were excited to hear the news. Some were sceptical. So we're not going to have beautiful people take sips on a perfect beach. Because the only thing that will make you believe is trying it yourself.
Oh, I love that line. We're not going to have beautiful people take sips on a perfect beach. I'd be so disappointed if it was immediately contradicted by another ad for Coke No Sugar that was running at the exact same time. The feeling I can taste is betrayal. Todd, why air two completely contradictory messages?
I don't know. Incompetence? I don't know. Before I say anything else, I do have to make a declaration on this, on Coke, because I'm emotionally invested in it. My dad worked for 27 years on the factory floor of Coca-Cola in Canada, pouring sugar into vats.
Yeah, but if he poured in the sugar, he'd be disgusted by this product.
He'd be unemployed.
Yeah, exactly.
I know why they did each ad individually, so I know why they do a launch ad with nothing else around it, so they could focus you on that message that it's new in this product. All I could think about was the antacid. Yeah. Add it to the Coke to make the fizz. But anyway, park that. So I know why they do that one. I know why they do the second one with the young people, because the biggest problem Coke faces here and in the US is relevance. In the US, the average age of Coke drinkers is over 50. So they need to get the teens and they need to get summer. So I get that ad as well. Together seems like a mistake.
Earlier in that ad is something I've never seen before. Instagram usernames. There's Feline Ropestorff, a Danish Instagram model with 228,000 followers. And there's Hawaiian Jay Alvarez. He has 5.9 million followers and is described as a soul influencer. Same. Karen.
Yes.
Is your soul influence? Karen, what are they selling to Instagram followers now, not TV audiences? What's going on?
So there's this whole generation that's been raised against the obesity epidemic who also don't watch commercial TV. And they're the kids that grow up drinking Boost juice and have gone straight into having coffee and wine, and they've skipped the junk food aisle in between. So Coke's trying to reach them as a target audience, and to do that, they're trying to talk in the same way that they'll understand. So this ad would have appeared in your social media feed and edited and supered, in this case, to look like a piece of content from Pop Sugar or BuzzFeed.
Yeah, and they've been doing this, putting influencers into ads has been happening for a long time. So nearly 6 million people follow those two individuals. So if those two individuals put it on their social feed, this ad itself, there's probably not a program, it's definitely not a program in Australia, but there's very few programs in the world that would go directly to 6 million people. Very few. Roseanne.
And Instagram's got 500 million daily users, most of whom are in the Coke target market. And 70% of hashtags on Instagram are brands. I mean, they're massive there. Some of the bigger brands are dropping $1 million a month on Instagram. It's got, I think the engagement is 10 times that of Facebook and 54 times that of Twitter.
Coke No Sugar has almost identical ingredients to Coke Zero. And if you head to Coke's Twitter feed, it's busy telling customers that Coke Zero will be phased out. It took 6 months for Woolworths to even stock Coke No Sugar, and most supermarkets still sell both. Dee, if they're basically the same, why would Coke want to go from zero to no sugar?
Well, it started off because they wanted a diet product for blokes, and Diet Coke as a brand was too girly, so they came up with Coke Zero. But then they did some market research and they realised people didn't realise that the zero meant zero sugar and 0 calories. Apparently the word zero wasn't a freaking clue enough. So they've literally come up with one that's got no sugar, because literally no one cannot get that means no sugar. That's why they're doing it.
This is really interesting what's going on here. You know, in that Coca-Cola are obviously a very sophisticated marketer. So what they've decided to do is phase out, kill a brand in Coke Zero, black can, because they don't want to invest in it anymore, and it's not actually providing the message that is really important to brand Coke. So brand Coke, i.e. white out of red, needs a no sugar message.
Life was so much easier for Coke when fat was the enemy. Now that sugar's the enemy, that's a massive problem for Coke. And the thing they're most worried about, it'll have the biggest impact on their business globally, is sugar tax. And sugar tax is already in 28 countries, and it's spreading around the world. And so for them, the best way of addressing sugar tax is to say there is no sugar. The cleverness of the whole thing is they don't tell you what's in it, they tell you what's not in it. But by telling you what's not in it, you don't question what's in it. Like, they don't call it aspartame Coke.
No. But what's in it, which is awesome, is Coca-Cola. So that is, because that means the net effect is going to be, because Coke Zero, that's where it's, well, what is that? What's Zero Coke? So that's not actually Coca-Cola. This is Coca-Cola with no sugar. That's awesome.
No, for me, I go alarm bells. So what they're saying now is they're going, this product, no sugar Coke, they've taken out the main ingredients in Coke, and it tastes the same. How the hell do they do that?
Yeah, but that... Genius, right? So this is where it's interesting, because they are playing a delicate game.
Yes, with our health.
Transferring equity out of traditional Coke into no sugar Coke. This is
equity,
smart.
Russell. They played with chemicals to make it taste the same.
I'm talking brand equity.
But of that brand equity, I don't think they're transferring the equity of Coke into Coke Zero no sugar. They're transferring all the things of Diet Coke and Coke Zero and Coke Vanilla and all the different things they've spent about 20, 30 years fragmenting, and they've realised all those audiences are getting so small, they're trying to group them back in under one umbrella, because all the brands are dying. And what's really interesting is Coke Zero is only big in Australia. Overseas, especially in the US, men will drink Diet Coke. They saw those ads in the 90s of the guys with the shirt off and they're like, I'm a hot guy, I'm going to drink that. In Australia, men saw that and they were like, that's a ladies' drink. No. So it's been really big here, and that's a ladies' drink.
Yeah, I can't imagine they said it like that. I think if they were going like that, they'd be fine with Diet Coke.
The thing you mentioned, Will, which I think is the funny part of this whole thing, is our local retailers and the power of our supermarkets. So Australia was chosen for no sugar Coke. Australia was chosen as a test market. We're often chosen, New Zealand's chosen more than us, because we're big enough for a sample but small enough that they don't really care. Right, so they put it in here to see what happens. And they're thinking it'll be easy, the Australians will take it, they'll drink it, it'll all be good. The supermarkets went, no, 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 no. We're not getting rid of Coke Zero. Yeah. And because Coke has been declining, the soda Coke has been declining for 12 years, with that decline has come a decline in their bargaining ability. And so literally, they must be thinking overseas, what the hell's with these Australians? They said no.
Yeah.
And so it took 6 months of fighting with them for them to switch it over.
And that's why I suspect that the first ad and the second ad were run at the same time, because they needed to, they were in a hurry. They were in a hurry to generate demand, generate interest so that they could get it into the supermarkets.
Coke is pushing their new spin-off hard. Ads wallpapered the MCG during the AFL Anzac Day match. Lest we forget, no sugar. And throughout the launch period, the company handed out over 2 million free samples of Coke No Sugar. Coke No Profits. Russell, why would a big brand give away anything for free?
It's standard playbook. When you have a new product, in particular in the food industry, and you're as big as Coca-Cola, you can afford just to give people the opportunity to drink it. Just on the perimeter signage, isn't perimeter signage a unbelievably powerful way to get your advertising message across? And insanely cheap. So when you think about it, so you've got a perimeter sign, and as a result of being on the perimeter, you're on the telly. And as a result of being on the telly, you've got millions of people seeing you, and yet it hasn't cost you the same as what an ad would cost you. Smart, mate.
I'm going to buy some ads for Gruen. There's one more Coke No Sugar ad in circulation at the moment, and it doesn't just contradict the two other ads, it contradicts itself.
The best pizza, original.
Meat lovers, bro.
Breakfast pizza.
Anchovy.
Pineapple.
Mate, come on, bro, that's not pizza.
Pizza and a Coke.
My pizza
Goes best with the Coke.
only with a Coke.
That Coke ad made me want pizza. Karen, is Coke having an identity crisis?
Yeah, massively. They were like the cool kid in high school. They were James Dean, they were in jeans, and they had their like Diet Coke abs. But now they're a toolie at schoolies while everyone's punching kombuchas and vegan tacos. And it's because and it's because suddenly sugar is the villain. Like, we look at food trends, which is important, and Sarah Wilson created the I Quit Sugar food diet, and it's gone global, and what we've seen is a trickle-down effect where people don't understand why, but they've adopted this behaviour and they know that sugar is bad, and it's led to a sugar tax, but it also has led to decreasing shares and sales for Coke. And for the first time ever, they were this golden brand, this pinnacle brand. They're now in crisis, and they don't really know where they sit. So they're trying to pair up with a permissible usage occasion, which from the ad looks like binge eating when you're out in the town. But that works. It's like, if you're going to treat yourself with a Coke. And it's how McDonald's have sort of gotten a lot of people in with their healthy salads, is that people come in intending to be good, but once they're through the door, they're like, you know what, I'm going to do something bad. I'm going to go whole hog, get a double cheeseburger meal with a side of nuggets and a sundae.
But they're reminding most of us that it is awesome to have a pizza and Coke, yeah? So a lot of people have gone through the process. I've got a seesaw in my head, good, bad, good, bad. So I'm going to have bad, I'm going to have pizza, and I'll balance it out because I'll have a water. You know what? This ad's saying, forget it. Just have the Coke and enjoy yourself.
So you're saying go bad, bad?
Yeah, totally. Right? Totally go bad, bad.
All right.
Coke's not responsible for anything other than selling more Coke. Good on them.
Imagine someone in advertising being so passionate about Coke. That's just about all for tonight. Please thank our panel, Russell, Karen, Dee and Todd. We'll leave you with a completely meaningless montage of every ad we've played tonight, set to the tune that makes all ads seem like they have a higher purpose. We'll see you next week.
There must be a higher love.